Hello, Chris here. I wanted to make a brief video about how to learn to 3D model in texture, largely because it does have a steep learning curve, and some advice at the get-go could save you some time and heartache in the future. So just like any skill that you're going to learn, whether it's a new song or a new physical skill, like any type of sport like skateboarding or biking, repetition is going to go a long ways, and that is going to be primarily how you learn. So the second piece of advice would be to utilize multiple work sessions to complete a project. If you are taking my class, then you'll want to split up your work sessions so that you're not sitting down like the day before a project is due for multiple hours at a time, right? It's going to be better if you spend 1 or 2 hours over the course of several days working on something, simply because the time in between, not only will it just be rejuvenating and 3D modeling won't feel as much of a chore, it is likely that your brain will come up with solutions to problems that you are having with your 3D model in between those sessions. So it's very important. The third piece of advice is starting over versus fixing. Very, very often, especially when you're first learning, it is going to be a lot quicker to start over on a model than it would be to fix it, right? So if your model has n-gons or floating verts or just really poor geometry because you're trying to figure things out, it's likely going to just be a lot quicker if you start over. Not only that, that sort of speed of iterative work is going to translate into just learning a lot quicker. So tip number 4 would be to tackle the most difficult problems or unknowns first. So if you're looking at a model like the wrench on the right here, the most difficult piece of modeling that wrench is definitely the upper jaw, the piece that clamps down, just sort of the extrusions on the side and how that flows into the rest of the body. Understanding that and getting that out of the way first is going to prevent you from running into problems and potentially not finishing the project on time or at all, as well as learning the skills to do that piece of the model. Those skills will translate into the rest of the model. So figure out what the most difficult or challenging portion of your 3D model is, and then do that first, okay? So tip number 5 is iterative saving and backups. We're going to be using Maya to do 3D modeling. It is a powerful piece of software, and there are a lot of things I like about it. However, it does crash a lot, especially depending on your system and your workflow. It is totally possible that you could be working and then Maya just quits out without warning. Okay, so you should be saving often. If you tend to forget to save, maybe set a timer for 30 minutes, 45 minutes max, and save once that timer goes off. You can also turn on auto saving, and then you'll want to not be saving over your previous save, right? So that if something gets corrupted, you can go back and you'll have only lost 30 minutes of work. You'll also want to be saving in multiple locations, so don't just save on your desktop. You'll want to save in your C or D drive, and then back it up into the cloud, into Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever you like to use. So lastly, being detail oriented is super important. When we start talking about edge flow and topology, understanding how that works and having nuance for your model is going to go a long ways. Making sure that your scenes are organized, that is very important as well. And then if you're working in a studio or you're taking my class, there are a lot of project specifications that you must meet, and if you do not meet those specifications, then if you're in a studio, that project's going to be sent back to you. You'll have to fix a bunch of stuff, and then you may be slowing down the pipeline pretty bad. If you're in my class, you're going to miss a lot of points, and your model could look really great, but if things aren't organized or you're not turning in everything that you need to turn in, you'll end up missing a lot of points, and it could impact your grade quite a bit. So lastly, I want to talk about finished, not perfect, and how important that is, right? We all should be, and typically are, our own worst and best critic. And it's important to meet the deadline. And even though, something may not be done, just to put something behind you, check off a box is important. That's not to say that you shouldn't strive to do the best work that you can, but doing the best work that you can is not an excuse for, it's not an acceptable excuse for not meeting a deadline, right? And then forward motion is more important than perfection. You will learn much more quickly if you just, if you can't figure something out, and you're having a hard time with something, and you just need to get moving forward, make a note of that, then move forward, and then the next project you can try and do better. Again, if you're taking my class, you'll have a lot of resources to try and fix those problems, and I can help you with that. But again, deadlines are important, and at least for my class, the reason why deadlines are important is exactly these two sentences, right? The notion that completing something, then getting feedback on it, rather than getting stuck on something and not getting feedback on it because you haven't turned it in, is going to be a lot quicker in your learning, learning the 3D model. So yeah, with that, let's start the course.